Honestly, just really proud to kind of be at this point, sitting here live on Airbnb, everything's finished, starting to get bookings, and kind of looking back in the rearview mirror, fist pumping, knowing that we pulled this thing off. It truly was a figure it out as you go project. One of the best skills you can have in any industry, but especially in real estate, is being able to recognize opportunity and jump on it quickly. What's funny about this Brownsboro development project is I was actually sitting right here at this island in one of my Airbnbs working one morning when I saw this deal come through off market. And in a matter of 20 minutes, I had checked it out, looked at the zoning, and saw an opportunity here with it being zoned commercial. I called the wholesaler who was trying to sign the deal. I said, I don't care what it takes, hold it for me, I want it. And then in a matter of probably about 4 hours, I had driven by the project, analyzed it more to recognize there was an opportunity here to do something bigger and tear down the structure and build something unique and take the new construction approach. It's just really funny how I was able to work with a good friend who assigned the deal to me, put it under contract, and kind of already have an initial plan and approach all in a matter of about 4 hours. I always call it the DOD, the definition of done. Like when you assign a task or you hire someone, like how to give them a definition of done so that everyone knows the job was completed to everyone's standards. And so a definition of done here with this Brownsboro development. I really want to be able to look back on this one towards the end of the year and say, wow, we put out a really unique, modern looking build that's going to allow people to come into Louisville, experience everything that we have to offer here in Louisville while staying in an environment that feels homey and feels like they're being able to be immersed in all the things that make Louisville what it is. And so we're tackling that from the theme perspective with the design, but we're also tackling it from the construction end and making sure that we think through all those little things that people are going to want and need when they're staying somewhere for a few days. I wanted to capture it for myself, wanted to capture this project and my growth and the things that I was learning and able to pull off for the first time, on a lot of these aspects of this project. But yeah, I wanted to be able to document some of the wins and lessons learned and decisions that went into it for other people in an essence, like trying to show that, and so other people can maybe learn from an informative standpoint, but also from a, hey, here's a 30-year-old out there learning as he's going and figuring it out. And so, yeah, I guess a little bit informative, a little bit motivation, but then also just kind of like a showcase. A lot of social media and content these days is credibility and just basically showing like, hey, this is what I do, this is what I'm looking to do more of. And this project, I think, was a combination of a lot of strategies that made it really unique. And so I wanted to really dive into the details and be able to capture not just the beginning and end, which you see a lot with flips or new construction, but I wanted to catch the little things throughout and how I was feeling, in that moment. And I think the content and the video throughout, I think, was a good way to just kind of capture that and, show it every step along the way. We're finally going in with footers, breaking ground. A few things about the footers over here. We had to go with some deeper footers on a portion of this build where it overlapped the existing footprint. Just to make sure we don't have any issues with the disturbed soil. But we'll pour this concrete today, let it set, we'll get the foundation framed up. We'll get rough-in plumbing later into this week, and then the exciting part, we'll start pouring the slab over here middle of next week before we can start going vertical. We have got the foundation finished and we started to go vertical with framing. Always exciting when you start to see it take shape. With any build, the dollar's in the details, but especially when you're doing a slab foundation, it's super important that you really get everything right. You got a lot of your plumbing that you have to run before you pour your concrete. Once your concrete's set, there is no change in that. And so you got to make sure that plumbing gets in the right spots so that when your framers come in, they throw these walls up, everything's pretty much locked in from there. So we got a first floor primary suite here, bathroom, steps, we'll have our mechanicals here. And then you have this big open concept, like 35 feet by 24 feet, kitchen into dining, into living. important part of construction, meeting with the designer. And we're going through all those little details before we start going up with MEPs and drywall. We'll have a big 9-foot island right here, kind of a wraparound L kitchen. We'll have some banquette seating, electric fireplace, big living room. We're doing some cool features. When people visit Louisville, obviously they're gonna wanna be able to spend time inside and relax, wind down after a long day, but no better place to have a glass of bourbon, smoke a cigar, whatever it is out here on this patio. And so definitely extended it, wanted to highlight this feature. Probably just have a simple backyard with fire pit and whatnot. Initially in the plans, we had just the 9-foot island, big wraparound kitchen. Had a last minute change with the framing, kind of added this archway. I thought this gave a really unique visual, especially when you come in the back door. You know, you'll see this. We'll have some floating shelves, and I think it'll really pop, give this kitchen some dimension right here. Designed the whole space with the living quarters pretty much predominantly being on the second floor, and then the first floor being the open concept. So not doing a ton up here. We'll do a little bit in all the individual bedrooms, so 5 total bedrooms, 2 full baths on the second floor, but keeping this predominantly living quarters and the first floor being the entertainment space. Cool feature back here though, we got a big back deck. Coming out back, we extended this back deck, just provide another space for hanging out and entertaining. 2 features of the exterior that I think are unique to this build. Went with Hardie lap siding and Hardie board and batten siding. Just a step up in grade, step up in quality. I'm gonna come back and paint it afterwards. But then secondly, going with a real brick veneer on the front and then the lower level in the back. I think it's just gonna add a unique touch to have, you know, this black king onyx brick on both the first and second floor veneer in the front, and then contrasting with the painted Hardie lap siding. I think it's gonna give it a really unique look, but also very durable, can last a lot longer than your vinyl and different products that are out there. This little phase of construction always moves a little slower. This is where you have to get everything right when it comes to your plumbing, HVAC and electrical. A lot of times those guys don't wanna work on top of each other. So this kind of little phase always takes a little bit longer. One kind of each takes about a week. And then you have your final MEP inspection where the inspector comes in, checks out all of these, checks out your framing. Most likely you then have a few adjustments that need to be made. And so this little stretch feels like it takes a long time, but once you get through this, you go in with insulation and drywall and things really start to pick up speed. One final construction update over here at Brownsboro. A lot has changed, got all hands on deck, trying to get this one finished to the finish line. A lot of the little details still to go, but a lot of the big stuff has been done. Showed you a lot of the process, a lot of the build, but I haven't talked about the theme here. So I'm excited to announce the theme for the Airbnb is gonna be Bourbon and Blues. It's no secret that Louisville's the bourbon capital of the world, and we're definitely gonna lean into that. But I wanted to put a lot of emphasis on the music part and talk about some things that Kentucky and Louisville has to offer in the music realm. So to carry out the theme, one thing we're doing on this build is we're naming each of the bedrooms after Kentucky artists. So we got 5 bedrooms, 3 full baths, and each bedroom will be dedicated to an artist that's from Kentucky. So I'm standing in the Chris Stapleton room. So each room will have a few design elements that kind of lean into the artist or maybe some of their albums. We'll have some bourbon infused and details to call out their name, just pay tribute to them. And I think it'll be a really cool touch that each room that people are staying in will have a little different feel while still tying into that bourbon and blues theme. A lot of our design elements and colors lean into the bourbon. So we got, you know, the dark oak cabinets, we got the black pearl countertops. We're gonna have some bourbon barrel heads, a lot of things that lean into both the bourbon, and then we're gonna have some things like guitars, different things on the walls, obviously the stage to kind of lean into the blues or the music. Another feature that I want to talk about as it relates to MEPs that I did on this project was these open web joists. So typically you have 3 types of joists. You have your solid, 2x10, 2x12 joists. You have open webs like this, or you have eye joists where you still have to cut out. And what this allows you to do is run all of your mechanicals through here. So you got your HVAC ducts running through, your electrical running through, anything you want to hide from drywall, you're able to run it through these without having a built-out soffit. This allows you to have clean walls, rectangle, run everything in here that's going to be hidden. Obviously, that then means that you have to make sure that's perfect before you go up with drywall. And so
Pay a little bit of premium to have these, but at the same time, I think it's really unique, a lot cleaner, and something that hasn't really been around in construction until the past like 5-10 years.
Biggest thing that I learned, maybe two-part there. I think biggest surprise was how easy it really is. And doing a 1,200 square foot renovation on a house on a 40 grand budget is not all that different from doing a tear down development on a commercially zoned lot where you're building back a 3,300 square foot short-term rental. Sure, there's some things that increase as far as difficulty. Bigger and the better and the more expensive you go on projects, but it was kind of a surprise to me that it wasn't that much harder. Again, when you bring in the right people. The biggest thing I learned as far as like the construction component is just how involved you really have to be. At least in the way I'm running my business right now. I mean, I was here a lot. I was here multiple times a week, if not multiple times a day, especially on the front end and on the back end, those 10% on the front and back end. It required a lot of bandwidth, a lot of decision making, a lot of figure it out as you go and kind of learn on the fly and make decisions on the fly. And so one of the reasons I've gotten into new construction more is because it's more processed and you can kind of have a script that you follow and over time, kind of step out of the business a little bit and work on it, not in it, right? But it still never fails. You're in it, you're making decisions, and I think doing it for the first time required more of that. But regardless, I'm a firm believer, and I think this project proved it, that you're always going to be in your business to a degree. Overviewing the project as a whole, obviously very proud of the product, proud of the experience that we've created, but at the same time, it's got to make money, it's got to cash flow, it's got to make sense, and so proud of that component as well, and the fact that we were able to set just under 7 months total timeline from when we tore it down to where we were listed on Airbnb, 6 months on the build. At this scale at 3,300 square feet, I think it was a win in itself, just timeline-wise. Cost-wise, you never go under budget, right? And so a little over budget. I think we were around $110 a square foot on the build, which is pretty unheard of. I think if you ask other builders in the area who are building for clients, it's tough to accomplish. I think I really tried to lean into the fact that I was not only GC in the project, but piecing together the financing on the project. I was kind of being the centerpiece, and I think that allowed me to do that for $110 a square foot. But I used private money, so I brought in a private lender of mine who lended on the purchase of the house and then the purchase of the construction. I think that was a big pro and a big advantage, that I wasn't having to go through some institutional bank where there was a lot of hoops and hurdles with withdrawals and interest and points, and instead just made it real clean. And obviously that, only able to do that because I've built trusted relationships with these people on past projects. But yeah, just proud of the fact that, able to do it in that timeline at that cost, without going the big institutional route, and was able to just use contractors that I've used before, bring in a designer that was friends with friends, use a private lender that's lended on previous projects, and kind of piece this together as if it was a 40 grand renovation on a small house in Germantown, but instead just kind of scaling that. And so we're in the process of refinancing right now, and so that's proven to be a little more challenging. The fact that it's a commercially zoned lot, new construction, short-term rental with no proven income. Not a lot of people wanting to lend on that, but excited to get long-term debt on it so that we can just get into the reason why we do this thing, which is being somewhat of a passive rental and running it like a business and not a construction project. Honestly, just really proud to kind of be at this point, sitting here live on Airbnb, everything's finished, starting to get bookings, and kind of looking back in the rearview mirror, fist pumping, knowing that we pulled this thing off. It truly was a figure it out as you go project. The goal initially in buying this place, it changed pretty quickly, right? From the time I put it under contract, it was going to be an addition, renovation to sell. And within about 7 days, that turned into a tear down development, short-term rental approach. And so, but after plans were established and even permitting approved, and we started breaking ground with the foundation, I think there was a theme throughout, and that theme was figured out as we go. That's everything from tearing down a house from the first time, having to do soil tests to be able to come back with a similar footprint, all the way into some of the finishes and approaches to the construction aspect that I had never done before. But just trusting that you get good people around you that know what they're doing, your heart's in the right place, and you kind of have a vision for it. Things can come together that you didn't think was possible.